and then I'm going to broadcast and then share my screen. Oh, of course it's not going to show up.
It says we're live.
Yep.
Morning.
Let's see. Hello, everyone. We've got a video, a memorial for Carolyn Benesch that I'm going to try and play here. 1 second. See if I can do that. Oh, it looks like it's not. I'm the one having troubles now. Let's try that. Share screen and play.
Hi everyone, Andy Cooperman back with you again.
Can everybody hear
I
that?
hope you're finding the day both informative and enjoyable. I suppose if you're still here, things must be going pretty well. We recorded this morning's introductions about 2 weeks ago. And in that short period of time, the design and craft world has lost another voice, this time to cancer. Carolyn Benesch was a smart, driven, talented woman, full of humor and curiosity, a strident advocate for all types of wearable work. In 1974, Carolyn, along with her husband and editorial partner, Robert K. Liu, co-founded Beat Journal, what we now call Ornament Magazine. Their goal was to spread the gospel of the art, craft, and design of personal adornment. The articles and images on Ornament's pages span a global arc, from fiber to metal, and reflect Carolyn and Robert's love of anthropology, archaeology, history, and ethnographic studies. They understood that the compulsion to adorn our bodies has been with us pretty much from the beginning, and Ornament celebrated that in a big way. The excitement that Carolyn felt and Ornament conveys for that ancient history is contagious, and encompasses the world of contemporary making as well. Carolyn and Robert saw the whole enchilada, and that's maybe where Carolyn and Ornament shine the most, calling our attention to that continuum of making across media, history, and culture. Associate editor Patrick Benesch-Liu, son of Carolyn and Robert, has been at the magazine since 2005, and Ornament will live on as he and his father, along with their staff, maintain the vision that his parents had so long ago. We'll miss you, Carolyn. Thanks for taking this moment with me. Now, back to our scheduled program.
With that, welcome everybody to the happy hour. What we'll try and do is try and have this be as conversational as possible. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat or the Q&A. And if you want to raise your hand, I can call on you and you can, I think it'll turn on you, you'll be able to turn on your camera and actually ask the question yourself. So feel free. Again, I haven't done it, so hopefully it'll work out. We'll see. We'll learn together. I guess the first question is, how has being quarantined affected your practice? Anyone that wants to answer? Go ahead.
I just talk. Okay. That's a big question. So for me personally, it's been extremely difficult adjusting. I have a 5-year-old who all of a sudden has been home with me and out of childcare. And so just that alone has just been kind of insane, trying to, really adjust my whole lifestyle of how much I'm used to working. And then also just trying to keep a small child busy while I'm working is quite challenging. In some ways, I think after the first 4 months of like depression, I've actually come to like a point where I'm feeling actually kind of good about having her around my work more and that opportunity to like share those sides of my life with her. But yeah, definitely it put me back a lot on my work schedule. I'm just like 6 months behind right now. And I've just had to really let go and just accept that like things are just different now, and that's just what I have to deal with. I mean, the good thing for me is like, because my practice, a lot of it is based off of like long-term patrons and then just online sales, like that part wasn't as bad for me. I think for artists that primarily deal with galleries, that's probably really difficult, because I also did have, like, my Royal Portrait Show was supposed to travel, and I had 2 galleries set up. So one was in northern BC and one was in Germany, and all that just got canceled or on hold, and I don't even know when that's going to pick back up. So yeah, just like on the bad side, very difficult mentally, but on the good side, like really has helped me do the work myself to sort of learn to like let go of, like, you know, plans change and we just got to roll with it.
Yeah, for me, I guess it's changed a lot because it's been a lot more work at school. So leading up to the semester starting, it was just sort of an ever-changing landscape. And so just to keep up with that and just converting all of my classes in a way to accommodate. I'm teaching 2 face-to-face classes and 1 online, and so it's just been that's really taken me away. And then like you, Morgan, kids at home and that kind of thing. Thank goodness for my husband; he's been super dad through the whole thing, because I have had to work from day one at school, and so I feel like things are, you know, I can't quite focus on a project when I get in the studio. It's much more rare to get in the studio, and when I do, it's just like moments. It's little pieces of things that never get finished and that will lead to something. But I think it's really made things so much more tenuous and like little phrases that I have to put together sometime later.
Go ahead, Stephen. So you take a breath.
Well, I mean, my studio life hasn't changed too terribly much because, like I answered earlier on the individual talk, I work by myself anyway, so I still work by myself. So that hasn't changed too much. The thing that has changed a lot, though, is just being able to think straight. I think all of us as makers, at least everybody I've talked with, has had a really tough time trying to focus in on what do you want to make? What do you want to talk about? What's your work going to be? I have an upcoming solo show next year at the Sculpture Center here in Cleveland, and I've got a year to make a body of work, and man, I don't know what I want to, there's just so many things buzzing through my head. I'm not quite sure what I want to talk about. And I think for a lot of us, you know, when we kind of dig deep to figure out what we're thinking about, what's deep right now is really confused and dark and just kind of weird. So I'm hoping for some clarity here soon. And like Cap said, I think you know, you just got to start making little bits of things, and then, you know, they just lead into things. You know, being into the studio, you just have to go there every day, and then something's going to happen and you just build on that. So hopefully that's what happens for all of us.
Yeah, I can say that like kind of hoping that when this is all over, whatever that means, because I don't know, yeah, that maybe we'll have some more clarity like of what this period was for us. I don't know. I also, like, I have a 2-year-old, and my studio practice has been kind of rocked for the past 2 years anyway. So I was hoping that in September we were going to send her off at least a couple days a week for some school, and that's not happening. So trying to appreciate the time that we have. Yeah, but studio work's been turned upside down, basically.
It definitely feels like it's like I hear a lot of people saying what you're saying is kind of like we are turning our attention to caring for the people around us. And I think whether it's my students or my kids or, you know, I think that has really shifted to become the priority. And in some moments it seems a little bit more maybe selfish than it used to get in the studio and have that alone time, because it seems like the people around us need just that little bit more.
Yeah.
I think refocusing on that care and that caregiving, I mean, it feels like that's actually been a thread through everybody's talks in some ways, that there is, you know, a thing that we're all sort of focused on in some different little facet. But I think it's a pretty fascinating thing that we're being reinforced to, and enforced to care more and be pliable and be responsive and able to, you know, change things on a whim. It's new. And maybe it shouldn't be new. Maybe it should be more common. But that's our experience.
Yeah, I think maybe we've been really, really, really lucky for a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
Didn't know it.
Well, I know all of you were expected to be here in Seattle, and has there, I have, should I ask this? What's been good about this change to this internet presentation?
It's specific to Seattle or specific to the idea that we're not traveling?
Well, good point. You can feel it either way.
Just looking for the clarification.
Yeah, I mean, mostly so that we do have the opportunity to do this from our different places, our respective homes. Seems to be the benefit that I've found, is that we can get more people from you know, a wider swath of, you know, the country, the continent, to experience this and get to see y'all talk. Has been personally like a really enjoyable thing to see happen.
I wish we were there, but
Yeah, me too.
instead of my bedroom, which is where I am right now. I panic a whole lot more in front of a live audience, so that's probably it's probably better to just be here and talking. But besides that, I can't think of any. I would rather be happy houring in person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, wouldn't we all?
I mean, the thing that I think we miss by not being there, obviously, is just the interaction that would happen between the scheduled talks. I mean, I know we had a symposium in Cleveland 2 years ago at the Art Institute, and I met Kirk Lang there, and I met, you know, had some great conversations with Cappy there, and, you know, just met other people there. And, you know, I think a lot happens in that downtime in between things that we're not necessarily getting to have here. So, you know, I appreciate that we can be live here a little bit, at least to have some kind of conversation in person. But yeah, I think for me, that's the biggest downside, is not being there to have those little conversations in between the segments.
We have one question from Molly Epstein. Is anybody not wearing pants?
Definitely wearing pants.
Pants.
I have pants on. Ooh, those are cute. I like them. I definitely went with leggings though.
I wore
Those
soft
really
pants
pants,
earlier.
Morgan, you're not saying anything. I'm guessing you're not saying anything.
I have shorts on. I don't know. I definitely considered not putting them on.
Right before we started, Cappy, you had an exciting cup that you were drinking out of for.
Oh yes, gin and tonics and Thomas Campbell's cup.
Mouthful.
We have two sets, short ones, and then he's making some long, thin ones now.
Just took a picture.
It tastes better in that cup.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Mhm.
get one of those. I have.
Ooh. Who's that, Stephen?
This is a local ceramic artist named Akuko Miklovsky. So this is a nice little tea bowl.
It's nice.
Good.
Am I visible?
You are.
Yes.
Look at this cup of wine. Look how beautiful. Can you see it?
Here we can see it.
Yeah.
Very pretty.
Yeah, it's hand painted and it has little jewels on it. It was a gift from a friend and it holds a
Dazzle.
lot of wine. A good thing.
Somebody in the chat said, "Show us your adult beverages."
Yeah. Cheers, everyone. Cheers.
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 Andy and I are teetotaling still.
Mm-hmm. Keep on the route. Oh, we did just receive a Stephen Yusko bottle opener from Andy Cooperman, who brought it for the happy hour that the symposium committee is sort of socially distancing, participating in. Here it's
Thank you, Andy. Use it well. I'm sure you will.
an elegant thing.
It is very elegant.
Mhm. Jim Binion made some sake cups that I've got my eye on.
Mhm.
That's going to be the next purchase.
Has anybody done any public work? And has it changed how you work or the direction? Or is anybody interested in doing things like that? Public sculpture. Yeah, Morgan.
So yeah, I have, and like I recently just did a big arts installation down in like English Bay or like Laelshan in Vancouver, downtown Vancouver, and I wonder if I can like show you on the screen. So anyways, it was really interesting because I was just asked to do it. I was contacted by a company who was putting together installations for like a Pride art walk. Because instead of the Pride Parade this year, they're doing an art walk so that people can sort of distance. And I was like, this is a great opportunity because I always have something to say, you know? And so I did these like huge, like they gave me a certain budget and I just worked within that. I tried to do as biggest things as I could with the budget. And so I did these like big, huge butterflies made out of wood cutouts, and I cut them out with CNC and then hand painted them. And I used it like I called them Butterflies in Spirit after a local dance group that does missing and murdered Indigenous women work. And just talked a bit about like the connection between like Two-Spirit and gay people and like our missing and murdered, because like the rates for our women are terrible. And if you add into that like the increased rates for violence against like LGBTQ2S people, they're even more targeted. So this was something that I kind of wanted to bring up through that form. And also to just make the butterflies really beautiful, because a lot of times when people represent our like missing and murdered women, they use like blood or like very dark like subject matter. And like, I just wanted to like sort of remember to put forward that like these are also like beautiful souls that are family members, and like they don't always need to be portrayed as darkness, you know?
Yeah.
So I have a photo, so I'll just see if I can hold it up to my screen. I know it's not the best, but see if I can get this big enough for you to kind of see. So that's kind of a close-up of the butterflies.
Fun.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
These are just, yeah, these are kind of like close-ups there. So you can see that they're cut out and then they're layered. And see if I can get this big enough. It's probably a little hard to see, but this is the installation down in English Bay. So I was able to get some pretty big, you know, big pieces that are going to really show up. And in that process of like working with sort of a new medium of the CNC cutting, which I hadn't really worked with before, but it was just what worked for the time frame and the budget in order to make something really big that would be like impactful. So working with that, it's kind of like allowed me to see some new directions with my larger scale work in terms of like mixing mediums again. So I'm excited to use that again in different ways. It's definitely changed a bit where my practice was going, but I think it all makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely gorgeous. Love
Yeah.
it.
One of the attendees asked in a similar vein, have the recent social and political events affected your work? If so, how? Has it been long enough for it to affect anything?
And keep me from getting to the work because my volunteering activity, just like, you know, you feel compelled to be out there and focused on contributing. And so I would say that affected my work.
I think for me, it's been affecting my work for the past 4 or 5 years. And so I think that my work has always been much more emotive than intellectual, I would say. And it was for a long time really reflecting the changes in my own life. And I think that maybe starting with that piece that I made for Boris Bailey's show, the gun piece, and in that time period, I started to really be aware of just feeling this real discord about what was happening in the world and the way that people were seeing each other, and just trying to, you know, sort of internalize that. And I've never thought of myself as an activist, and yet that seems to occupy my mind so much, just this confusion about, I guess I'm a humanist and I love people and I find people fascinating, and I generally believe that people are good, and I have been pushed a little bit in that regard, and I'm trying to figure that out. And so I don't see it as an overt way that it's coming into my, you know, it's not, I don't think it's overtly political, but it is sort of at the core of all of the work that I've been making lately.
Cool.
Sorry, I just quickly speak. I'm not going to get too into that because obviously my work is considered somewhat political here in Canada. Like we have a lot of issues with like the way that our government and industry treats Indigenous people here. So yeah, like I just think like art in general, it has such a power to like bring people together and to create space for like social justice and stuff. Like I think it's actually really, really exciting. And like a lot of the work I'm working on right now is like sort of how can I use more of the art form to you know, I guess to bring power to movements that are important and to voices that are important that are doing this good work. And like, and I think that the art form can definitely be used to like legitimize movements as well. I think that's important. There's a lot of spiritual power in like artwork, you know?
Yeah, I think even that idea that, oh, sorry.
But one of the things I've been encouraged, I always have been an activist, and in the jewelry industry as well as just socially. So one of the things that it's always been important to me is the idea that businesses, even very small businesses, when they combine their economic power, can be a force for change. And one of the things, I've been disheartened by a lot of what I've seen in the jewelry industry, and I work the industry, the whole vertical, mine to market. Some of the things I've seen have just been like, oh, what are you thinking? But more than that, I've seen a lot of people in the business world recognizing that they have a responsibility to bring their economic power for change more than I've seen in the past. And so I take heart in that and try to focus on that than some of the other things that really otherwise stress me out. You know, that together we can do a lot of good. So I think, you know, art can bring a lot of validation and emotive power and messaging to movements. And I think we need to back that up with economic power, and we all have to pull together to do that. So I have been encouraged.
My work was not ever like very overtly political, but I did just make my first overtly political piece for the Amend show, which I feel like you guys have all seen. And that was really satisfying. It was really satisfying to just go like blatant with something, you know, and I would like to do more of it, but you know, it's me breaking out a little bit from my production work into the more one-of-a-kind pieces, and I feel like there's some direction there that I will be following. I also think that you're right, like Andrea, what you're saying about the responsibility of small businesses, and I'm thinking a lot about, you know, I'm not really making a lot of money right now with my business, like honestly, but I would like to think about a way to like make a portion, you know, of what I make go, you know, right now it's like so measly.
Even bringing your voice to it, you know,
yeah,
I work with Susan Wheeler on the Chicago Responsible Jewelry Conference, and we keep trying to get the major diamond suppliers to the table and they won't come. So we thought, fine, put together a symposium this week with the World, this one wasn't World Bank, this was Human Rights Watch and IPEACE, and all, you know, the community showed up, small designers, nobody's bringing any money to the table, but suddenly we had the World Diamond Council there, and we had people from the Kimberley process there, and they're like, oh wait, who are all these people? These aren't the people we usually hear from, usually the people at the JA conference. It's like you bring your voice and you're a representative of economic power from a sector of the industry, and it's powerful. So it doesn't always have to be money. Presence is important, and making statements about responsibility is important, and saying my business votes with our pocketbook. You don't have to say when, and you don't have to say how much. You just need to show up.
Yeah.
I think even that transformation, and I've never heard Morgan in your talk the idea that the artwork makes a visual law. It was a new term for me that was really exciting and interesting to consider. You know, a language is a thing that can get passed back and forth and can be, you know, a totally different thing from one person to another, but a law is a thing that is respected and seen and appreciated as a, you know, for what it is. And I it's a new way for me to think about object making, and I really appreciate it, especially in light of these sorts of conversations. Does that, I guess, can you talk more about
Yeah.
the idea of a law, a visual law?
Yeah, I love that too. Tell us more about it, Morgan. That just really touched me.
So yeah, I can definitely, am I coming through?
Mhm.
Okay, I can definitely speak more on that. Like within our culture, like a lot of people say like, oh, like we didn't have like, because we didn't have written law, like in English, that as if we didn't have law, but our law, a lot of it was visual, and in order to create visual law, like you had to go through a whole legal system basically. So like when you talk about, say, poles, which are like wood things that we put out on the land that are carved with the crests of the family that shows like their lineage, which for us is matrilineal. So it goes through the females in the family. And we're, Tsimshian specifically, are a matriarchal society. So basically, like in order to create that document as an artist, like it would need to be signed off on by like every person that's like high up within our legal system before it can even happen. So these were like real documents of land title and things like that. So, and also they're documents of your ranking as, say, as a chief or a matriarch, because to have these produced, it's not just one person that agrees off on it, it's like a whole society. And like, so they are truly our legal documents, and that mixes in with like the ownership of song, because again, those are passed down matrilineally, and there's a process to that. And things have to be feasted. So if the community doesn't agree with something, or if there's people that don't agree with something, that would all be brought forward, but before anybody would have the right to even use it or to show it. And so like specifically myself, like there's definitely a difference between myself and most more commercial Northwest Coast artists, because like I definitely practice what we call halate work, which is like basically you're creating documents for people that are showing their like levels of like political power within the system. And so, yeah, they are legal documents, and there's a lot of people involved to like give permissions for that and to make it happen. So that's specifically like what I do a lot of, is like what's called halate work. And that's like really placing levels of like power onto people. And we have very specific orders for how that goes. Like it goes like leggings come first, and then an apron, and then the gwis halate, the blanket, and the halate, which is our version of a crown. So there, you know, it's all interrelated, but it is documents of title and law. And with us, that's all completely tangled in with our land, you know, and our title to our land, because within our culture, that's all held by the matriarchs. The matriarchs are the one with veto power and the ones that hold title to the land. And to put it simply, like chiefs are usually speakers for the matriarchs. So yeah, it's a interesting system to work within, and it's something that I'm just always like a student of. And I find that like I just get directed a lot in what I'm supposed to be doing, and I just follow that. I call it walking the path. I'm like, oh, this is the path. I'm going this way. But it's following that legal system and just like living the law, and doing that through the art form is just really important, because it brings tangible visual documents into the world. And it's like you said, like when you have something in your hands, it's different than just an idea. Like it's living it, right? It's alive.
Fascinating. Thank you for that. That was
Morgan, I'm sorry, Morgan, could you say just a little bit more about the feasting thing? That seems super important.
Yeah, so Northwest Coast people, especially like on the coast here, BC, it goes down towards Seattle as well, all up and down the coast. We come from feast culture, and that's it's a way of like living law that also includes like song, dance, gifting, and different ceremonies around all sorts of different things. But yeah, so basically like feast culture is like we have just to really simplify it down, is like we have like a feast house or somewhere where we would all meet, and all of that would be planned and decided on between the matriarchs and the chiefs. Usually it's like one family feasting per time, kind of, and they may have like multiple things on their agenda. So like if there's any marriages, if there's any like law to be passed, or if there's any like you know, levels to be placed on people, that would be done during feasting. And basically like we show up as the other people to the feast, and we're there to like hear the words and to witness. And if we choose to dispute anything, we would dispute it also during that time. And then at the end of the feast, like the gifting is a part of our culture a lot too. So basically like you would, if you accept the food and if you accept the gifts at the end, you're also accepting the laws and the words that are spoken there. And again, like that's really just all, mostly all decided like through the matriarchs and their meetings of how they want things to go, and what, you can bring things forward to them, and then they would sort of decide like what's going to be on the agenda. And the songs and the dances and the art form are all a part of that, because they're visually showing who this family is and what crests they own and what songs they own. And it can be done in different ways, like even just between different nations, but a lot of the time it's used for one family per time. Yeah.
Fascinating. Thank you. The next question is from Kate Dunnigan. Cappy, I'm teaching high school jewelry online. I got to send a toolbox home for lost wax casting. The 6-inch ruler dividers comes up in daily lessons, and I love that you default to these simple tools. As this pandemic continues, do you or anyone else have any suggestions that would help these young spirits make meaningful, empowering objects? And, you know, I think creative outlet is important, but projects are really limited. Oh, Cappy, you're muted.
Saw that. There was a good reason I was muted. There was activity over here. So it's been I'm sure so many of you out here, there's so many participants here joining with us today, and I'm sure a lot of you have been teaching online. I think that every day when I get on the Zoom with my students, I just really do my best to make connection, to sort of engage with them, to provide interesting information for them, to create a different kind of communication with them. And I think that's really at the core of it. I mean, we're sort of transforming our ideas and trying to make with objects that or materials that we can do at home. In the spring, I had to shift so quickly to remote teaching. One of the things that I did was I made had the students make a necklace that was called Everyday Warrior Today, and it was just sort of like them creating a neck piece for themselves that kind of was helping them get through things. And they used everything from soda bottles to cardboard to whatever they could find in their house. But it was really about them. It was really about sort of giving themselves an armor to deal with whatever they were dealing with at that moment. And it was really profound what they were able to create. So I think that's it, is that whatever you're doing, you know, I was drawing from history. I was giving them a lot of background, so many amazing contemporary pieces that we have to draw from with alternative materials that are not metal. And so, yeah, I think it's really about trying to connect across this, just like we're doing right now, trying to look in each other's eyes, even though we're far away from each other.
Another question from Andy Cooperman. You're about to be evacuated. What tool do you grab? Why? Stephen, you can use a hand truck, but only a hand.
Oh man, since this whole thing has started, I think one of the things that has kind of helped me keep my sanity has been to I've been scrounging more tools. I did that when I was early in my career and then didn't really need much anymore. But I've kind of started again. I've been collecting tools for another project in Venezuela for my friend Daniel, the Caravan School. And while I've been doing that, I found a couple that I just couldn't live without. So I'm sure some of the things I might grab out of my studio would be those. One of the things I recently got was a 2-inch Wilton bullet vise. It's called a baby bullet, and it is just that would probably have to come with me. And the anvils are just, I'm getting older and those are getting heavier every year. So I don't know if I could take those with me, but certainly there's a couple of favorite hand tools from some different places up in Maine that I've gotten. And then some tools that are meaningful from, people who have made them for me or that I've acquired from them. So those are the things that would definitely come with me. Those are more irreplaceable things that would come out of the studio. I'm assuming I'm leaving from my studio. If I'm at home, there's a whole different host of things I'm going to grab. But I'm in the studio now, so I can't take my power hammer with me. That's 2,500 pounds. So I'll go with some smaller tools. I'm done.
And
Priya, what would you take? I'm interested to know what everybody's going to
yeah,
take.
exactly.
Did you just say me? Did you just say
Yeah.
me?
Yeah,
Oh.
everybody answer. Everybody answer.
Well, I'm probably going to be at home if I'm being evacuated, I'm guessing, because I'm more often here. And do we get to come back, or it's like, is there going to be power?
Let's say coming back in a year.
No power.
No power.
Oh, that makes things difficult because I've got
Clean
this
out the
laptop.
refrigerator, man.
It's a laptop, it's like so I'd have to just and I don't really have tools at home in my studio. I'm not really full, I don't have passionate relationship with much of any of my tools. I don't know if that's sad or not, but nothing that cause I did pack a go bag when there was some stuff happening here. And my computer was in it, but so I guess my laptop is the answer.
We did get a reprieve from the committee that said you can bring power tools.
Okay.
You'll be power where we're going.
My laptop. I don't know if that's the answer. Yep. Next.
What about you, Morgan?
This is like a nightmare question for me because I love tools. My tools are like my babies. I'm like, my little babies, I obviously, my first thoughts are all my hand tools because I have wood carving tools and engravers that are all handmade by me and they're a ton of work. But picking just one would be impossible. So I think if I had to pick just only one thing that I could possibly use to do stuff, maybe a chainsaw.
It'd probably help in whatever emergency situation that you might be in too.
Yeah. It's a nightmare. If I had to leave any of my tools, I would be so upset.
That is so funny. A chainsaw.
I love that.
I mean,
Somebody asked me this question earlier, and it was one of those moments where you walk away and you're like, oh, I totally forgot. I was actually in the studio during our break, and I realized that so I'm so lucky my husband makes me tools all the time. And some of the hammers that he's made me would have to be the things that I take. I remember when I turned 42, I had asked for some chasing and repoussé tools because I wanted to expand my chasing, and he gave me 42 chasing and repoussé tools.
oh,
So I would have to, I was like, wow, I thought you were going to make me 5. This is awesome. So I think I would have to take some of those special tools.
What about you, Andrea? What did you bring?
Well, as a person who mostly lived on the road, I learned very quickly that you can get evacuated from hotels on the regular. So I started only sleeping in hotels in clothing I didn't mind running out of the room in, with a go bag that had my laptop, my phone, and my billfold in it. So I figure as long as I have clothing on, a laptop, a phone, and a billfold, I'm actually fine.
I feel like I need more information about why you're getting kicked out of hotels.
I can't tell you how, well, I mean, this was a huge adjustment for me. I used to spend, up until COVID, I spent a third of my time in Europe and about 150 days a year on the road.
wow.
Which was inclusive of the time in Europe. My kids are grown, I don't have kids at home anymore. So staying home was has been I like it, actually. I found out I really like it again, but it was weird. But for some reason, there's always somebody pulling a fire alarm or some kind of an emergency alarm in a hotel I'm in. And when you travel that much, it actually happens fairly often. So you learn, like, nightgowns, no, not in a hotel. T-shirt and underwear, no, not in a hotel, because you need to be able to dive in your shoes and actually arrive in the lobby clothed.
That's a really good advice for anybody.
I like that.
Yeah, but I don't know. I have we lose power. We live in central eastern Wisconsin, and it's ultra rural where we are, and we lose power a lot. So I have a toolbox. If we lose power, there are certain things we need, and just a good toolbox that we can do anything with, and wool clothing in layers, and I'm pretty much set.
Where do you live in Wisconsin, Indra?
We live not too far from Lake Michigan, about halfway between Milwaukee and Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
To those of you with children, how has having kids changed what you focus on when you're traveling through your life with them?
Wow.
You, Steve.
Well, you guys are thinking something interesting. I have my oldest grandchild's 18, and then my youngest one is 4. And when COVID started, our 18-year-old decided she was going to stay with us. And so she's got a house full of little brothers, so we don't blame her. But my daughter's a nurse, and she was afraid that exposure would make it really difficult for them to engage with us. And they wanted for Aubrey to be with us instead of at home. And so it was really fun to have a child at home, like, full time again. I mean, she's almost an adult and she's an easy kid, but this bonding with my almost adult grandchild, I never would have gotten this.
Yeah.
And now she started her freshman year of college and she's home. She's
Yeah.
here, doing this work. So it's been this bizarre, unexpected blessing and a huge sacrifice on my daughter's part that I will never, wow, that was a big.
Go put a light on real fast.
I definitely spoke about this in my talk a little bit. I think for me, so when I got pregnant with my kids, my midwife said to me, she said I had to have 3 children because she thought it would take me that long to loosen up. Because I'm a little bit of a type A personality. And, but then she gave me permission after 2. She said, okay, you've come a long way with 2 kids. So I think that kind of encapsulates it for me, is just like, I used to have to have everything in its place. And, and I just have had to relax and just be like, well, can't control this thing. And so definitely that has really permeated my work. I think for me in a very, very positive way. I feel like my work is much more aligned with who I am as a person than maybe my earlier work. I mean, I guess it's changed over time, but I had to sort of catch up. I think my work had to catch up with who I had become after I had kids. And it felt great when I think that it did come closer.
How old are your kids, Kathy?
They're 12 and 9. And every day is an adventure, and the things that they say to me and the things that they point out and their interests are just really fascinating to me. So
I feel like I'm just still figuring it out. It hasn't been 2 years yet. So
you haven't even slept yet then.
Yeah, exactly. We just started recently, and I went to bed last night saying, God, I just can't believe how good she's sleeping. And then of course I didn't knock on the wood, and of course last night we had some issues.
Yeah,
that's what happens. Yeah, we're just
gotta do that wood knocking thing, I mean, it's been around a long time.
Every time I say something, it's like I hear her. She's making noises.
Let's see. What are you doing in the studio or otherwise to maintain a sense of sanity in these strange times? I think or otherwise is important.
Yeah.
I'm not in a studio, but there has to be music all the time.
Oh, that's
always music. If the music's playing, everything else is okay.
That's great.
And Stephen, you got a bike?
I mean, I've done too many things to distract myself from the studio during insane times. So I've ridden a ton of miles on my road bike. I've gotten into these tools, which has been really exciting and fun. I'm really interested in photography and bird watching, and that's, you know, that's something to just go out in the woods or just go out, even in the city. I mean, we've got so many raptors that fly through here, and right now is an interesting time, you know, with the raptor and the other bird migrations, you know, all moving back south coming through. So, you know, that's been a really interesting thing to get involved in. So, and then again, this project that I said earlier, the Caravan School with Daniel. So I think as some other folks have alluded to, the idea of, you know, trying to help somebody else out, I think is really important right now to just, I mean, I think you know, you think less about what you're doing and what you're going through when you're helping somebody else. I'm sure, you know, those of you with children, you know, that's, you focus more on that. I think we're all nesting more. We're all doing these type of things more. So yeah, trying to be helpful for someone else has been a great thing to kind of keep your mind, you know, just keep some kind of grounding and some kind of centering going on within yourself. So, and when you're, you know, just for me, when I'm on the bike and, you know, I'm riding with a couple of guys and you're going, you know, 25 miles an hour, at, you know, 6 inches or a foot away from somebody's wheel, you don't really have brain space to think about other things. You're just focusing on that, you know, trying to breathe and not wipe out. So yeah, that kind of thing. But at some point we all got to dive back into our work somehow. So I'm looking forward to focusing more on the work and, you know, really diving into that. Like I said, nothing like a deadline to make you more productive. So I've got one coming up, so I'm sure I'm going to have to be more focused on those kind of things.
Yeah, for us, I've just spent, I think this summer was spent a lot more outdoors. Like a lot of people, you know, we did a lot more canoeing and kayaking, camping. My kids are finally of the age that they can bike. So we worked up to, I think, 17 miles together as a family. So it just is, you know, it was just a lot of that, just a lot of getting out in the woods. And I think that's what kind of kept us all together all summer long.
I am not sane. I just make lists and try and achieve them before my next breakdown.
Checking things off is satisfying.
Good point, Morgan. Yeah. We're all trying to keep it together here.
Yeah, like just like be kind on yourself. Like it's okay if you're not keeping it together, right? It's COVID times. Just roll with it. Like,
hear that?
yeah.
Okay. I was gonna mute myself, but I think maybe I won't. That time.
What's the Caravan School, Stephen? I don't think we got a full explanation of what it is.
So Daniel Soto, he's kind of like my brother, and he is my brother in Venezuela. So I taught a class at Penland in '97, and Daniel was in my class. He was 19, he had a broken wrist, and he spoke almost no English, and he's the best student I've ever had, and he's become my brother. So, you know, if you follow what's going on in the world, Venezuela is in the worst economic downturn in non-war zone times. So what's going on there is terrible. They have no resources. They have no access to most anything, food, water, everything's a struggle. So Daniel is he's doing this project. He lives in the mountains in Venezuela, and he's going into these mountain communities, like super remote communities, and he's teaching people how to survive, basically. So he's taking blacksmithing and woodworking tools into these communities and teaching these folks how to make tools that they need to survive. So like one community had all this wheat just rotting in a field because the tractors that they got from China were all falling apart and broken. They had no resources to fix them. And so they actually cut the tractors apart and made sickles and scythes and made different things to harvest the food. And Daniel said it was amazingly powerful. They go into this community, they set up a forge that he's built, you know, take an anvil, take a vise, take hammers, and they make tools. So they taught the farmers how to make sickles. And this wasn't just the men, this is the women and the kids in the community. Daniel has 2 children, 7 and 10 years old, and they go into the community as well with him. And so they're teaching the kids, they're teaching everybody how to make these tools. And he said they would literally finish the tools and they would run out into the field. They harvest the wheat and they're making bread and baking things immediately with it. And then he leaves an anvil and a forge and the tools for these community folks to make things. And one of the big things they've been doing is making horseshoes as well, because you know, these horses, their hooves are all falling apart because they're standing in who knows what, but they need the shoes so they can get out in the fields and do the work. So, I mean, what he's doing there is just so admirable. I mean, on a day-to-day basis, he's, you know, trying to figure out what is he going to feed his children, and yet he's, you know, taking all of his resources into these mountain communities and teaching people how to do things so that they can survive. I mean, he's almost like this messiah, and that's not even too extreme of a word. So I've been working with Daniel for years on different projects, and so this one is certainly an important one. So I'm been collecting tools and equipment and sending things over to him. And, you know, I was supposed to go there in March, but between their political climate and then COVID, I was not able to go. And he was supposed to come here and teach at Haystack with me. And obviously that didn't, or excuse me, teach at Penland, and that didn't happen either. So, you know, I'm hoping we can do all these things again in the next coming years. But, you know, this hasn't stopped him from doing this project, you know, to help his countrymen out. So he's going on 4 different, he calls them brigades, 4 different excursions basically into these mountain communities to teach people. And then they've actually come into his studio. So he's training teachers in his studio and then sending those people out to teach within the community. So it's an amazing school. And what he's doing down there is just, it's extremely inspirational. And I come into my studio with, you know, everything I need. And, you know, I'm thinking, Jesus, man, I mean, so making art right now, it just seems like so frivolous, you know, when there's these important life and death kind of events taking place. So, you know, and trying to balance all this stuff out mentally. And yeah, but what he's doing is it's astonishing. And so we're trying to put together, you know, different coalitions, different people in the States to help out. We met a guy when we were teaching at Haystack a couple of summers ago that's helping Daniel out form a nonprofit. You know, so anyway, I could go on about this forever, but if you're interested, it's the Caravan School, so La Caravana Escuela. It's on Instagram, and you can find out lots of information about that. And I will post things on Instagram and Facebook as well relating to that. So, and Cappy's been great. She's done some really nice drawings for us to use. And yeah, so anyway, we're working on getting things going for that. And then this is not just going to be something in Venezuela. The idea is that this can go all over the world. You know, take this model and go all over the world in these communities that need help, that need, you know, need resources, need knowledge on how to make things to help them, you know, survive basically. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about that. I don't want to dominate this conversation. I could talk for hours about the Caravan School.
It's such a cool, I really want to encourage everybody to go to his Instagram account, because he's posting, I mean, it's unbelievable photographs. And I wanted to add one thing in that when I was talking to him, because I did some drawings for their logos and things like that. And I don't know Daniel, but I had an opportunity to communicate with him. And he told me a story about when he started this, he was hiking in the Andes and he came across this town where they couldn't harvest their wheat. And he said it was his kids. They heard the story of the people in the village, and his kids looked at him and they were like, Dad, you can teach them how to do this. And he was just like, oh man, here we go. And so I think it's pretty amazing what he's doing. So I encourage everybody to do what you can to support him. It's a very good thing.
Yay.
There it is.
Yes.
So I think we got one last question, and then we'll get out of here. And it's an easy one. If you could change one thing about your career and the choices that you've made, what would it be? Not that easy.
Great. Can you repeat that? I spaced out for a minute.
Yeah. If you could change one thing about your career and the choices that you've made, what would that be?
All right, I'll dive in real quick. And this is sort of tongue in cheek, but I'm surrounded by about 50,000 pounds worth of equipment and materials. And I think if I could change anything, I would become a pencil drawing person, because man, then all you need for your studio is a piece of paper and a pencil. And that would be so nice sometimes to be like, that's all I need. I can do this anywhere, instead of being locked down to all this equipment. So I mean, I love this and I love what I do, but there are certainly some days where I just think, man, this would be so much nicer.
What about you, Andrea?
I don't think I'd change anything.
Perfect.
the hard stuff was for a reason. The great stuff's been great. It all makes you who you are. I'm heading into my seventh decade here, so it's not like I'm new in my career. Yeah, I don't think I'd change anything. There are times I can think if I would have spoken up sooner or louder, but other than that, I'm good.
Maria?
I think that I would have taken more courses and like gone to like Penland and Haystack and all those places like when I was right when I was out of school, because I kind of just started really figuring out how great it is, and now it's gonna be a while till I can like focus on taking some. I would have taken more workshops. That's all. And
Morgan?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. That I feel kind of like Andrea in a lot of ways, because it's like I've been pretty tough about following the path that I want to be on, like kind of regardless of outside pressures. But I would say like one thing that I would like to see, for future generations is that it's less of like trying to create space within a market and more that there is space there more, especially for like female and two-spirit artists, where they're safe within our industry as well, because we have a lot of issues with that, with just trying to like practice the art form and like having to deal with like just unsafe situations trying to do that because of our genders and who we are. So yeah, I just like that stuff that I would like to see changed. I'm not in those type of positions at this point because I do well for myself now, and like I have good spaces and really good people to work with. But I definitely experienced a lot of coming up as an artist, and yeah, I'd really like, so I'm really just pushing for more safe spaces for like young artists to come up in. It's like specifically like female and two-spirit people. Yeah.
Kathy?
Guess it's my turn.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. I think I'm really I love the balance in my life between teaching and making. I think if I could change anything, I don't know if it would be a choice that I would be able to make. I just wish that we valued higher education more in this country. I feel, many medals programs are closing across the country. And I think that we need to fight for them. And I have spent a lot of the last 6 years fighting for my program. And I think a lot of you out there who are educators are doing the same. And I think there is something that's very special that's happened is there's been so many other nonprofits and other ways that people can learn about metalworking and making jewelry. But I do think there's something that happens in terms of a holistic type of education in higher education where you're learning about the liberal arts and you're being able to study many different things along with metalworking. That just is a petri dish of something super special. And so I'm feeling, the trajectory, there was this pinnacle in 2010 where every program was burgeoning, and we're just losing that. And so I guess I want everybody to hold on to that and fight for it. And we need to do what we can because it's really changed, I think, for those of us who are educators, sort of the balance of where we spend our time and our efforts. And I think it's valuable. I think it's really valuable what we do. And so I guess I wouldn't change it. I just wish the atmosphere in which we're able to do our work would change a little bit. Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much. Hi there, little friend. We've got the rest of the committee members came to say thank you.
Yay.
Good job, everybody.
All right. Let's launch
Thanks,
it.
everybody. It was great working with all of you. You've done a great job.
Cheers, everyone. Have a wonderful
Cheers.
evening.
Thank you so much.
Look forward to seeing you all again soon.
All right, bye.